Whoa. And the bunny hop. Oh, my God.
Okay, that did not just happen.
Tonight is the night. Bright lights, high crowd. Yeah, we need to throw down. Everybody get loud. Tonight is the night. A-list, can't miss. When we burn it to the ground, everybody get down. Tonight is the night. We stay grinding while our fame can't rise. It's steady climbing, now we on top. It's not something you get.
Oh, finally, Raw is over. That's like passing a fucking kidney stone. You might actually get some ranting out of good mic work tonight. Oh, that was just hideous. I can't even believe I sat through that shit for 3 fucking hours. But anyway, I'm up here as promised. Raw ended literally seconds ago, and I just wanted to come up here right away and give my overall thoughts on the pay-per-view and Raw and what the fuck's going on. Let's start with something that I didn't completely hate. Believe it or not, I did not completely hate Night of Champions. I thought it was a relatively solid show. The main event didn't bother me at all because in my predictions, I even mentioned I don't know what they're going to do and I don't know how they're going to do it, but I imagine Brock Lesnar will somehow walk out of Night of Champions as WWE Champion. I figured they could go a lot of different ways, including a John Cena victory by disqualification, which is what they did. Cena put up a much better fight in this match while getting his ass kicked at the same time because Brock Lesnar was equally vicious on John Cena and he took a hell of a pounding. And then they did the finish where John Cena actually probably has Brock Lesnar beat. I think he hit him with 4 AAs, he goes for the pin, and Seth Rollins interferes in the match. Now, this sort of surprised me, but not really. I mean, he didn't actually cash in. I really didn't think, it's believable or Seth Rollins has a place trying to cash in against these two guys. He has a whole year to cash in this briefcase. He should pick his spot a little bit better than this particular match. And earlier in the day, there was even the online report that Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar were seen in the ring before the show practicing the curb stomp. So you had a feeling that Seth Rollins was going to come out there, and thank God he didn't cash it in. I really think that if they're going to give Seth Rollins the briefcase and they're going to invest in a push with him, then they're probably going to give him the title, which means they need to hold off the briefcase cashing in as long as possible because, for their future plans, we'll talk about Roman Reigns in a minute, but Seth Rollins doesn't appear to be in their immediate future plans, so his cash-in could be, months down the line. But I did like the way they teased it. I thought it was a nice way to make up for the fact that they were actually doing a DQ finish. By the way, I have no problem at all with the DQ finish. I don't know what people are saying online. I imagine there's some people, of course, because they're wrestling fans and that's what they do, but I'm sure there are people that have some sort of a problem with John Cena for what happened in the main event, but I think that's exactly the way it should be booked, especially if it looks like now they are going to have a third match. Now, they didn't say anything on Raw about Hell in the Cell yet. I don't even think they talked about the pay-per-view, but you have to think with the ending of the main event and the way it all went down between Cena and Brock, there's got to be a third match, and it's got to be in the cell. Which means Cena had to do something to not look like a chump in that match. So I think, at the end of the day, when this whole Cena and Brock thing is over, Brock is going to keep the title regardless. And on top of that, I didn't give a shit what they did. The only thing I wanted, and I think most of you feel the same way, the only thing I wanted out of the main event and Night of Champions was for Brock Lesnar to keep the title. That's it. And they didn't even have him on Raw. I mean, how fucked up is that? I think if Brock Lesnar is going to make the trip to a pay-per-view, he might as well stick around for one more day and get another appearance out of the way. But then again, there's also a pretty good amount of time before Hell in the Cell, so maybe WWE thought they could go without Brock and then they can build for the main event. They got plenty of time to do that if it is in fact going to be another John Cena versus Brock Lesnar match, which I'm assuming it is. You also got to think you'll see Ambrose and Rollins in the cell. Maybe they have 2 cell matches this year. One for Brock and Cena, one for Ambrose and Rollins, and there can still be the tease of the cash-in, win, lose, or draw for Seth Rollins because you got to know, after a Hell in the Cell match, no matter who wins that match, the winner is going to be, pretty bad off. So it could be easy picking for Seth Rollins, and they're going to continue to tease the cash-in probably for every single pay-per-view until he actually does it. So all in all, I really didn't have a problem with the way the finish of Night of Champions was booked because I just wanted Brock to keep the belt. However, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get Brock on Raw and we didn't even get Paul Heyman on Raw. I mean, that has to bother some of you a little bit, even the Cena haters that want to see this guy fucking die. Your WWE champion is sitting on his ass. Your WWE champion couldn't even make the Raw after the pay-per-view, that was just a couple of hours away in the town next door. I mean, this contract is kind of bullshit. I want Brock Lesnar to be around as much as possible, and he doesn't have to be on every Raw, but you think the Raws before and after pay-per-views, it's kind of necessary. I mean, you would think Brock and Heyman would have something to say about what happened last night, and we don't get anything. So if Brock is, in fact, going to keep this title until WrestleMania, it's going to be very interesting, how they do this with him never being on the fucking show. And as a matter of fact, as his reign comes to an end, I can see them using that, as a part of the storyline. But for right now, the WWE is going head-to-head with Monday Night Football. It's football season, so all of these Raws, they have to go up against the NFL for the most part without Brock Lesnar. He's probably only going to be around 25% of the time. So they need to make up for that fact with compelling storylines and shit that's going to keep you interested on Raw. And boy, are they so not doing that. But we'll get to that shit show of Monday Night Raw in a minute. Let's continue on the Night of Champions theme and talk about Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Unfortunately, Roman Reigns suffered an injury, a hernia. Had to be rushed to the hospital and undergo emergency surgery. Now, he is fine, already released, already headed home, but the recovery for this could be up to a few months. Some people say 6 weeks, some people say 3 months. It could be anything. So, unfortunately, this is a tough blow for Roman Reigns, but I think it's something that he'll be able to come back from. It's just a matter of getting healed up, which just takes time, but I don't think anything's really going to set him back. I expect him back better than ever, and I think, luckily, this injury took place early enough where right now I don't think we can start worrying about his WrestleMania plans just yet. Let's wait and see how long it takes him to come back. If he's back by Survivor Series, it's probably no harm done, and I would sure like to know what the status of Daniel Bryan is as well. I mean, this year has just been, riddled with injuries to major stars. First, the WWE had to put the brakes on Daniel Bryan's, huge push, and now they kind of have to do the same for Roman Reigns. But hopefully he'll be back, sooner than later, and they can resume. As far as Roman Reigns goes, of course I wish him all the luck in the world. I do not hate Roman Reigns. I know I've mentioned multiple times how the fans are already starting to display some of that, and I can already foresee the future when Reigns does become that big star. I know the fans are going to shit on him, but that does not include me. I got nothing against the guy whatsoever, and I wish him all the luck in the world. I was a huge Shield fan. I loved that faction. I loved what they did. Of course these guys need to get opportunities in the future because the Shield was highly successful, and you got to reward, that sort of work. And Roman Reigns has everything. He's got the look. He's young. He's got everything the WWE needs. And just like John Cena, he's not Eddie Guerrero in the ring, but he's good enough to be the guy I think that the WWE wants. And I wish him well. And I wish him a very, very speedy recovery. And however the WWE books him in the future, just remember, that's WWE's fault, not Roman Reigns. Now, the injury, luckily, for WWE didn't really fuck their plans up that much because Roman Reigns, technically, if you want to look at it, was probably just a fill-in for Dean Ambrose anyway in his feud with Seth Rollins because Ambrose was off filming that movie. So, of course, they have Seth come out at Night of Champions, get in the ring and say, I win by forfeit. He makes the referee raise his hand. He makes the announcer announce his name, all that shit. We've seen so many guys do this same crap. And then he gets on the mic and issues an open challenge, of course, to anybody in the back that wants to take him on. I even remember tweeting that I was wishing Brock Lesnar would come out and eliminate the potential threat. Brock's got to know he's got that briefcase. He's obviously not sweating John Cena. So what's it to him if he goes out to the ring and has a little bit of early action before his match and beats the absolute piss out of Seth Rollins, making it impossible for him to cash in the Money in the Bank later on? I thought that would have been really badass. But let's not get carried away with Brock. They don't need to put him over that much. But that's kind of what I was hoping would happen. And then, of course, they go to a backstage shot of the garage. A taxi cab pulls up, and out pops Dean Ambrose, and he runs right to the ring, and him and Seth Rollins have a huge brawl, goes all over the place. I think even the Authority ran out there and got involved in the whole deal. So that, of course, is back on. Rollins versus Ambrose. We know we're going to get a match at the next pay-per-view. We know we're going to get an interaction on Raw. So it sucks that we actually didn't get the match between Reigns and Rollins. I would have been curious to see who would win that, but at least, we got the Ambrose-Rollins feud back. We did see a few title changes, and one of the more disgusting things about Night of Champions was The Miz won the Intercontinental title. The Miz winning the Intercontinental title from Dolph Ziggler is not what was disgusting. What was disgusting is these two country jack-offs that they come out there. What are they called? Florida Georgia Boys or whatever the fuck? It's that same shitty country band that played on Raw last year, about a year ago now. I remember it was awful. I even remember the intro to the video that I did. I did the clip from Team America where the guy is just like throwing up for 3 minutes straight. That's how I felt when I watched Raw that night. And of course, Night of Champions is in Nashville, so they bring these two motherfuckers out there to do guest commentary during an Intercontinental title match. Can you believe that shit? I mean, if it isn't bad enough that we already have 3 morons out there doing commentary, you want to add 2 more? It was horrible. And then to make matters worse, they actually have an Intercontinental title change while a country musician is doing guest commentary. Fuck me. Bring out Art Donovan. And as if that weren't enough, they actually have Damian Sandow get in the face of the country guys, and they fucking beat his ass. It's just fucking crazy. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I just fucking hate it when they do shit like this. You know, earlier this year, they had Flo Rida beat up Heath Slater backstage, you know, or something like that. It's just fucking ridiculous and such a waste. And it seemed like the whole point of having The Miz win the Intercontinental title was to get these two jackoffs involved in the match somehow, because The Miz dropped the belt back to Ziggler on Monday Night Raw tonight. So yeah, the WWE is putting over a country band on a pay-per-view at the expense of playing hot potato with the Intercontinental title. Fucking stupid. The Rhodes brothers won the tag team titles, finally defeating the Usos. I had a feeling that would happen. It seemed like the Usos should be dropping the title soon, and I love Stardust and Goldust. I thought it was a good match, too. It was a very good match, and congrats to the Rhodes brothers. I like those guys. Of course, this gimmick is goofy as shit. What did JR say? Goofier than a pet coon, but still, they make for really good television, and I'm glad they won the title, and it's glad to see them get another run, as heels, too, you know, on top of that, so awesome. I'm sure the feud with the Usos is far from over. I'm sure there will be multiple title defenses and rematches and all of that throughout the next few weeks, so it should be fun to watch. Congrats to the Rhodes brothers. AJ won the Divas title. This surprised me. I actually thought they were going to give it to Nikki Bella because they're putting so much time into this Nikki and Brie stupid fucking storyline. And then, of course, the Total Divas tie-in, and Stephanie is involved in this thing. You would think that this big new heel, Nikki Bella, would need to get the belt, but nope. They kept the focus on AJ and Paige, which is fine with me. I'm not a fan of Divas wrestling at all, but I do like Paige and AJ, and I was glad to see AJ win the belt again, so good for her. And if you want to hear me talk more about the Divas, just stay tuned in a little bit when I start talking about Raw. But as far as what else we saw on Night of Champions, really quickly, Chris Jericho, of course, lost to Randy Orton as we expected. He is officially out of the WWE. He put up a video on Twitter after the show saying that he was taking off for now until he decides to come back again. So, Chris Jericho, have fun on tour. Thanks for coming back and entertaining us for a few months. And I really hope to see you again at least a couple more times before you hang him up. It was really nice to have you back. And I even enjoyed the Peep Show segment on the pre-show. Even when Randy Orton referred to him as Terrence and Phillip was pretty fucking funny. Also, Sheamus retained his U.S. title against Cesaro, which I expected that he would, in a really surprisingly good match. I mean, Cesaro's great in the ring, but Sheamus doesn't do that much for me. But these two guys had a really good, hard-hitting, physical match that I enjoyed. Probably, I mean, it might be considered the best match on the pay-per-view. I'm not even sure. I'll have to think about it again. But it was definitely a good match, an enjoyable match, and it was a nice surprise to see that. I thought it was solid. Also, as expected, they did have Rusev go over Mark Henry, beating him with the camel clutch or whatever, and Mark Henry let America down. They even sang the fucking national anthem. I mean, I love Lillian Garcia. She sings that song beautifully. But still, what was the fucking point of wasting, however many minutes it takes to sing that goddamn theme song? Which, by the way, it bothers me that countries have theme songs to begin with. I mean, what the fuck is this? These national pride storylines do absolutely nothing for me. But anyway, Rusev, they're putting him over as a big monster, and he's been going through a lot of guys lately. You gotta wonder, when's this guy gonna get a title shot? He either needs a title shot or a big program, and we have heard the rumors about CENA. I mean, they could just be building Rusev for CENA. I don't know. I wish they would have Rusev. I'd love to see a Rusev-Brock Lesnar confrontation. How awesome would that be? Have Rusev and Lana out there doing their shit, and then fucking Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman come out? Oh, that would be great. But I doubt that'll happen. Those two guys are on opposite sides of the roster. But anyway, Night of Champions overall wasn't a bad show. I know some people weren't pleased with the main event, but like I always say, you got to be patient if you follow this thing all the way through. I'm still pretty certain that Brock Lesnar is going to keep this title, for the foreseeable future, including the next pay-per-view. And if he does wind up facing Cena in a cell, Brock's going to walk out with the belt. It wouldn't make any sense to do it any other way. It wouldn't make sense to give Brock the belt at SummerSlam, have him have another match with Cena, and then lose it to Cena in October. That's just not the place where Brock Lesnar needs to drop the belt after the year he's already had. So to me, it's just not going to happen, and there's nothing to worry about, which is why the main event didn't bother me in Night of Champions, and I was able to appreciate the good things that we did see, because we did see some solid in-ring work. That was not the case for tonight's Monday Night Raw. Holy fucking shit. Now, I hate to crap on every Raw, but they've been pretty bad in the last few weeks. I understand what the WWE does now. I understand how Raw is structured, and the type of things we see today is not going to be like we saw yesterday. And we just have to accept that WWE is going to do dumb comedy skits and diva shit and, overplug things and over-advertise and all that crap that we hate. That's just the way the WWE is. But tonight, for some reason, seemed a lot more annoying than usual. And I'm definitely not going to give this thing a very thorough review. We're only going to talk about a few things. Of course, John Cena and Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose have their whole thing. Dean Ambrose opens the show and threatens to sit in the ring and not leave until he gets his hands on Seth Rollins. John Cena interrupts him. They tease a little hostility between the two because they both want to get their hands on Seth Rollins, and they both consider the other one standing in each other's way. It's just so fucking stupid. Why don't you just team up and beat the crap out of them together? Wouldn't that be a lot more satisfying? And then the Authority comes out and Triple H makes a bunch of matches. He said Dean Ambrose is going to face Kane, and Randy Orton, big surprise, is going to face John Cena. Wow, Randy Orton versus John Cena in the main event of Raw. How lucky are we? We never get to see those two guys wrestle, right? So anyway, we got to fucking sit through 3 hours of Raw just to get to that fucking main event. But of course, finally John Cena I think he makes the first move and just runs up the ramp to try to get his hands on Rollins. Dean Ambrose follows him. Rollins scurries away, and he's being chased by John Cena and Dean Ambrose, who chase him through the backstage area. He eventually carjacks a guy and drives off. So we have a carjacking within the first 4 minutes of Raw. So they have the Ambrose versus Kane match first, and I don't even know how it ended. I just watched this match an hour and a half ago. I don't even remember what happened. I think a lot of guys got involved, right? I think Rollins was back out there and all that shit. And then you fast forward to the main event, Cena versus Randy Orton, and you get the same thing. Just a giant fucking clusterfuck. It was just unbelievable. So I just didn't think anything was really that well put together on this Raw. But they didn't tease really anything about it at all. So it was just like, what was the point of this Raw? And we sat through a lot of shit. We saw bunnies in the fucking ring. Yes, a bunny. Now, I guess they've been doing this for a couple of weeks. I just haven't been paying attention. But this bunny has been getting involved, so I'm assuming, of course, somebody must be in this bunny costume. I've heard rumors of Darren Young. I've heard rumors of Sami Zayn. I don't know who they're going to decide to put in this bunny costume, but I know somebody's been playing him recently on TV. And on Raw, the bunny had a match, and it was fucking horrible. It's just like, if you're tuning into Raw, and you're channel surfing and you come across that, what does the casual viewer have to be thinking? This is a goddamn circus. Why would anybody watch this shit? And it was almost as if WWE just said, you know what, fuck this quarter hour, because after the bunny match, we get a Brie Bella promo. They're going head-to-head with Monday Night Football here. It's like they're not even trying. They're like, fuck it. Let's just do two really, really bad segments in a row. So after I have to watch the bunny wrestle, then we get Nikki Bella in the ring cutting one of her horrible promos. And can I just fucking rant for a minute? I tried to keep my mouth shut and not give this Total Divas show too much shit, because I'm the one that's always talking about how the WWE is expanding and how they make movies, and that it would be hypocritical for me to criticize any other outside things that they try to in order to make the company more money. But this Total Divas thing fucking pisses me off so bad. First of all, the fucking show gets great ratings on E. You know why? Because stupid motherfuckers watch E. Have you ever seen a show on E? It's always Kardashians. It's always this dumb ass fucking nonsense that brain dead citizens of this country fucking watch. That's the only reason that this Total Divas show gets any ratings at all. It's because stupid motherfuckers watch that channel. And to make it worse, now they're putting it into My Wrestling. I feel sick inside, literally physically sick to my stomach when I have to think about how I grew up watching wrestling, what wrestling has meant to my life, how old school I am. And then I have to see these stupid bitches in the ring cutting some of the worst promos in the history of the fucking business, the worst acting I've ever seen, and to make matters worse, the theme music makes me want to shit nails. I have never heard worse fucking music in my life than the stupid fucking shit that these divas come out to. What is this garbage? Give me a break. What kind of an audience is into these storylines? What kind of an audience thinks that this is the way women should behave, act, and look? What kind of sick, fucking twisted place that we live in that any of this shit can be considered entertaining at all? It's fucking garbage TV, and it pisses me off. And I don't mind if the WWE wants to have some stupid show involving their stupid divas on some stupid fucking network. But when they're bringing it into pay-per-views and they're bringing it into Raw, and they're writing a lot of these storylines specifically for the type of audience that watches Total Divas, that's when I fucking draw the line. Fuck John Cena being the cancer of the wrestling business. You know what the cancer is? It's shit like this. It's this terrible storyline between Brie and Nikki Bella that's just fucking awful, and it makes me cringe, and I hate it. It had its moments, a couple of months ago when Stephanie was involved. There was a couple of things they did on Raw that was good, but they completely lost their focus, and now I think the whole thing is wrapped up in the type of shit that they do on Total Divas. And they brought up the stupid show again when Natty and Neidhart and Summer Rae had a match, and they showed some clip of the show, where they're in a van arguing with each other or something. It's like, what the fuck? You have to understand what this does to a wrestling fan like myself. There is absolutely nothing that John Cena or any other guy that's universally hated by the jackoffs in the IWC that they could do that would piss me off any more than some of the shit that I see from the WWE Divas and the stupid Total Divas on E tie-in that we're seeing on Raws and pay-per-views. It fucking, it enrages me beyond belief. It's the worst fucking shit that I've ever seen, and you know what? I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed right now about the whole show, to be honest with you, but these segments in particular are just so horrible and hard to watch. It literally, I think, fucking makes me mad. Dolph Ziggler won back his Intercontinental title tonight. That's great. I guess that could be considered a highlight, but other than that, a whole bunch of fucking shit took place on this show. Dean Ambrose is a shining star. He's this glimmer of hope, this beacon of light that's so refreshing and just nice to see a guy like him, a character like him on TV, so everything he's doing is great. When Paul Heyman is on the show, I think he's the best thing that they have out there. So the show has potential. The show has its moments, and WWE has got a lot of good things going for them. But these execution of these Raws, especially lately, are just fucking piss poor, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I've earned the right to say that because I will always give the WWE the benefit of the doubt, and I'm never going to come up here and just blindly trash the product every single week in stupid fucking reviews where all I do is bitch about the WWE constantly. I don't do that. Tonight I am doing that because tonight I was legitimately disgusted with almost everything I saw on Monday Night Raw. So WWE, you better get your shit together because myself and I'm sure a lot of other people are getting fed up with this fucking nonsense. So just real quickly, to look ahead to Hell in the Cell, here's what you have to expect, I would think. Cena versus Brock, right? Rollins versus Ambrose, right? I'm sure the Rhodes brothers and Usos will be involved in some sort of a tag team title match, whether it be one-on-one or a four-way or something like that. Maybe we'll finally get the blow-off to AJ and Paige, and how cool would it for that match to be in a Hell in the Cell? It might be fun to watch, who knows? Rusev's push, I'm sure, will be continued after he destroyed Mark Henry on Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure if Mark Henry's going to come back and face him again, but he might. If not, I'm sure Rusev will move on to his next opponent that he's going to destroy. I think an early candidate for that might be Big Show, because Big Show, gave Mark Henry the pep talk at Night of Champions. They've been tag teaming together, I guess, occasionally. So now that Mark Henry got beat down, he might even go on the shelf. Big Show can step in and take on Rusev, and Rusev can, defeat the Big Show, which would be huge for Rusev. So to me, it looks like that's the direction they seem to be going with some of these matches for Hell in the Cell. I'm sure we will see some variations of what I just said there, and there's plenty of weeks to build that up, and I sure as hell hope these Raws leading up to Hell in the Cell are a lot better than they've been recently. Also, before I get out of here, I do want to acknowledge the passing of one of Paul Bear's sons, I guess Michael Moody, and of course his sons inducted him into the Hall of Fame just over a year ago. And I guess he passed away over the weekend. Really, really sad. I have not heard what he died from. I mean, he couldn't have been that old. I think he's probably under 40 years old, but he was extremely overweight, much like his dad, so I'm assuming if it's not anything shady, like a drug overdose or some personal problem that he has, it's probably weight-related. Heart attack or something like that. So very sad to hear that, and heart goes out to the Moody family. That's two pretty devastating losses in just a year and a half for those guys, so I feel horrible. And if anybody's asking, I don't really mind that the WWE didn't mention anything about Paul Bear's sons. I mean, there's lots of guys in the wrestling business that have a family member die. They don't mention that every time. The kid was only on WWE TV one time in his life, and that's when he inducted his dad into the Hall of Fame, and before that, I don't even think people knew Paul Bear even had sons. So I really don't think there was a point to draw attention to the Moody family when they're mourning and they're grieving this loss, and to mention something on Raw. They could have said something maybe during a match like condolences or hearts go out to the Moody family. Paul Bear's son passed away. They could have done that, but the fact that they didn't, I'm not freaking out about it, because they did acknowledge the passing of a Howard Stern character, Eric the actor, a disabled guy that apparently is a huge WWE fan. WWE has a good relationship, I think, with the Howard Stern show. They did acknowledge the passing of him, and I was worried that the fans were going to get mad and say, oh, the WWE, mentioned him dying, but not, Paul Bear's son or whatever. It's not like that. I don't think that was the WWE's mindset. It's just a matter of, what's worth mentioning and what's not, and I don't don't mind that they did not mention Paul Bearer's son dying. So that's it for me this week. There is a very good chance, as a matter of fact, it's almost a guarantee, that I will not be up here right away after Monday Night Raw to give a review, because I'm probably not going to see Monday Night Raw. If I get a video up at all, it'll be late next week. And I will try to be back up here again as soon as possible, but as I've said before, September is a very busy month, and as a matter of fact, next week I've got the in-laws in town. Any of you guys have in-laws? It fucking sucks. So unfortunately, I will be dealing with that instead of dealing with Monday Night Raw and tweeting to all of you crazy bastards. So you guys have a great week. Enjoy next week's shitty Raw, and I will catch you in about a week and a half. In the meantime, make sure you friend me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. I'm always commenting on anything that breaks in the wrestling world, that's newsworthy. I'll always have something to say about that. So if you need a little bit more good mic work and you don't want to wait a week and a half till the next video, check me out on those other sites, because I always have something to say. So I will catch you very, very soon. Until then, peace.